This morning we want to just think about two things this morning that sort of overlap and sort of don't. There you go. The first is to recognize that next Sunday is Covenant Sunday, and we want to think a little bit about what it means to be a people of covenant, and what it means to sign that document next week. And then the second is to answer a response that we did, a congregational response sort of thing in the last few months, where I was asking for a response to my ministry and sort of general how are things going in church. And probably the most common response in all of that was, wow, it'd sure be nice to have more people here. And yeah, it would sure be nice to have more people here. So I just want to talk about both of those two things because they're related. And I want to talk about them in the light of Luke chapter 15, verses 1 to 10. And it doesn't fit very well. I was thinking, when I started, this is going to really fit easily. And then I started digging into it a little bit more, and I realized that it is a tough kind of parallels to make because the differences are more obvious than the similarities. Because Jesus has a problem that he's dealing with in Luke chapter 15. Before we get to the parables, it's always good to know what's the question he's trying to answer. And the problem he's trying to deal with is the fact that there's just all of these people around. And this is not a problem we have. Right? Our problem is not what do we do with all the people who are crowding into the church. Right? Now Jesus has a problem. There's so many people around him, but the Pharisees think his problem is otherwise. The Pharisees think the problem is that it's the wrong sorts of people who are coming to the church. And again, we don't have that problem. We've got all sorts of sort of basic good church folks here. But it's good to recognize that this is Jesus' problem. He's just got too many people around him, and but they're the wrong sorts of people. They're not that. Right? In some ways, it's not easy to make these sort of parallels, but the Pharisees were basically the good church folks of their day, the extra good church folks of their day, and Jesus wasn't one of those. And Jesus didn't get along with the good church folks of their day. Jesus didn't like people like you and me. Well, he liked us, but we didn't like him so much. Right, and I think this speaks immediately to the covenant we're going to sign. That this covenant that we're going to sign, it's just us. And it would be nice if there just isn't enough room on our covenant to, for all the signatures. But it's important also to recognize that this covenant that we're going to sign, while it's just us signing it, we are all parts of greater communities. We all have family and friends and acquaintances and co-workers. Right? And so while this covenant is about those who are here, right, it affects a much larger community. That this church has fingers in all sorts of different parts of the community. And so it's just a place to start. It's not the end of things. It's not like, well, we're okay and the rest of the world can, we're just going to huddle together in our little group. But this is a covenant that, right, it's just like the candle. You don't stop with lighting a candle. You start with lighting a candle, and it spreads its light. And so we start by signing a covenant and are trying to be that community as we go out in the world. So then Jesus, right, tells a story. And recognize, right, this is not our problem, right? So Steve comes to church every week, and he's usually one of the first people here, and he asks, so is there going to be any space for me in there today? And I look at the empty pews and go, yeah, we'll probably find a space for you somewhere, Steve. And sometimes I wonder, often I wonder, why not? I'm sure you wonder that too. And why aren't these pews all full? Because I know you guys. I know you're invitational. I know that this community, works really hard at being welcoming. And still people don't come. They come Saturday night, and they come Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Mondays and not Sundays. And maybe, part of the problem is this book, right? That there's a lots of people out there whose idea of God is the one we just saw in Exodus. Right? The God of wrath who's out there to destroy all them evil sinners, and Jesus, Jesus made a choice here. Jesus said, no, not that God. Because if you actually look at that story in Exodus, the people made these calves not to substitute for God, but as a way of actually worshiping God. And God misunderstands the calves and then goes down and wants to destroy them. And they're going, no, we don't believe in this God that misunderstands much. I mean, if you're not going to believe in God, that's a good God not to believe in. But, Jesus showed us another one, and somehow, I don't know, maybe there's just people out there who are expecting us to be preaching the God of Exodus, and we keep preaching the God of Jesus, but anyway, in all of this, Jesus decides he's going to tell a story. So he tells the story, right, of this man. And there's something wrong with this story. I don't know if you noticed it. I was really worried that Blair was going to show it to us in the children's story, and then I was going to lose my sermon, but she didn't, so thank you for right? So let me ask you this question that Jesus asked, right? Let's imagine that you're a shepherd and you have 100 sheep. You're out there wandering in the wilderness and you've got 100 sheep and you count and you go, oh my goodness, there's only 99 of them. How many of you are going to leave those 99 sheep wandering in the wilderness to go find the one?
I'm going to send the border collie out there.
Right, you're going to send the dog after it, you're going to, maybe there's some other local kid, you can go to a sheep somewhere, but, if you're a good shepherd, right, so it's an odd parable, because the answer really is nobody, right? And if in that story God is the good shepherd, right, God is a bit strange. Or maybe God is just confident. Maybe God is saying, you know what, you guys, you good church folks, you're fine. Good for you. I'm going to go look for the sheep. You guys can take care of each other. And, we sort of like to have a little help from God now and again, but we're also pretty good at taking care of each other. Why shouldn't God spend more time looking for sheep? I don't know. Right? But that's not our problem. Right? If there were 99 people here, we'd feel very differently about this Sunday. Right? So, we got to rewrite this story. So imagine if you have 100 sheep, and 75 of them go wandering off, and you're left with 25. Then what do you do? One of the things is you might start wondering about the quality of your help. What sort of Indian shepherd loses 75 sheep? Right? But that's the reality of who we are. Right? But also to remember that there's a lot about this context that we're in. It's very interesting. Like, I'm part of lots of different groups. And you guys are part of lots of different groups. How many of them are over 100 people? How easy is it to gather more than 100 people together? Right? We have Mountaineers for Progress I get together with regularly. They're happy when there's a dozen. Sometimes there's even 15, but more than that, it's tricky to do. Right? You gather together a prayer vigil on the courthouse steps, and it's again a dozen, 15, 20 people. Unless you got a football game going on, it's really hard to get to. So it's not like the church has this unique problem. It's like this is a society that just doesn't do big groups for the most part. There's the odd church that's got hundreds of people in it, but it's the odd church that's got that many people. This seems to be about the number. And I think really how we feel about our numbers is a product of two basic things. And the first is the size of the building. If we were meeting in my house, we'd go, wow, we can't even fit. But for some reason, the people who built this building thought, well, this is probably the size of the congregation that we can get together, and they were wrong. At least, in our current context. And so we sort of look around and go, wow, this is pretty sparse. If we were in the UU church down the hill and we had this many people, we'd pack it out. Right? It holds 25 people tops. Right? And so it's a really artificial kind of problem. And it's an artificial problem that's like, in thousands and thousands of churches worldwide. Because there's lots of congregations that are this size and are worshiping in buildings that are 10 times this big. I mean, I was in, Ghana, there's a church every, 2 every block. But I was in numerous churches that would easily hold 600, 700, 800 people, and there were 30 people worshiping there. And that was just what it was. Right? And there's lots of churches in this town that would hold 500, 600 people, and there's a dozen people there on Sunday morning, or 20. And so, it's not like we have a unique problem. This is just the reality of our situation today. The second basic problem for why this number feels difficult, tricky, is me. Because one of the realities is that we have a church budget, and we're not going to meet it again this year. And the biggest part of the church budget is me. It's just the reality of things. Right? And so if you stop paying me, well, you'd have lots of money. What would you do with it all? And you'd have lots of work.
You've done that.
And you've done that. And you were tired when I got here. You were really tired when I got here. All right, there's people here who are still tired, and that was like 3.5 years ago. And so that's why, I, in some ways, don't mind being that problem. Because there's a lot of stuff that just has to be done in order to maintain an organization like this. And the more of it I do, the more you guys can spend your energy out there in the world doing the work of the church. I don't think about my job as doing the work of the church. That's what you guys do all the rest of the week. Right? I do this so that you guys can do that. And as long as you're willing to put up with that system, I'll stick around here. The moment you guys stop doing that work out there, I'm gone, not interested. Right? We're just huddling up together and keeping out the big bad world out there. Right? You guys can do that on your own. But I know, right? I know how much we are doing out there every week, whether it's taking care of family or taking care of friends or reaching out into the community or all of the things that we're doing. That's the work of the church. So I'll do this stuff. And then you don't have to, and you guys can spend your time out there. Right? But still, right? I mean, let's be honest, it'd still be nice to have a few more people here. No, I don't pretend that's not true. But again, right, back to our story. So how many of you, right, women, if you had 10 coins and you lost one, would drop everything and search for your 10th coin? So this again says something about Jesus' audience. Jesus' audience was the kind of people who would actually do that, because that was like 10 coins, that was all they had. How many of you having, 10 $1 bills, if you lost one, would tear apart your house? Most of you would go, yeah, it's a bug.
It'll show up.
I got another one. I don't know, and so think about this for yourself. How big would that bill have to be before you tear apart your house? I'm guessing, right, we have enough variety of people here that, for the student, it might be $1, right? And for those of you who are, heading toward retirement and things are looking okay, I don't know. Would you tear your house apart for a 20? Would it have to be 100? So this is a different number for all of us because we are, we're at different stages in our lives and at different places. But Jesus was talking to an audience where they go, yeah, for a dime. Absolutely, I'd tear apart my house because, there's lots of places around the world where that's just all. There's lots of places in Morgantown where that's the reality of things. But the cool part about both of these stories is that the emphasis on the story is about the rejoicing. Right? this guy finds his sheep, and he's just so excited, he tells everybody, and the woman is so excited about her dime, you know, and it's foolish what she's doing. She's probably like, you know, she finds her dime and then she spends 25 cents, you know, on her party. You know, or maybe the whole dollar on her party. And God says, yeah, that's the way you should do this. Right? Just like focus on the rejoicing. You know, and we talk about this regularly, but just again, just to say it over again, you know, you almost can't rejoice too much. You know, over foolish little things. Because joy just gets you places that depression and sadness never get you. Right? I mean, if you've ever walked into a room and found a bunch of sad, depressed people, right, this is not the group you're going to go back to. Right? It's over my head, I hear music in the air, people you're going to go back to. Right? We just have to, you know, the church just has to keep focusing on doing ridiculous amounts of rejoicing over foolishly small things. Like one stupid sheep. One little dime. Right? And yes, they're all stupid sheep.
Sheep are stupid, yeah.
Sheep are stupid. But that's great, you know. Now, you know, Jesus would also say sheep are stupid and delicious. Right? So there's a reason for these sheep. So we keep, right? But you know, and again, to remember that this is a story about searching, and we do keep searching, right? I think of it sometimes as a community in search of people, and recognizing that in this city, there are thousands of people in search of community. And it's just weird to me why we can't get this together. We've got people in search of community, we've got a community in search of people. I keep saying, well, you know, you could come here, and they don't. That's just weird. You know, I don't get it. You know, but you know, it's not like anyone else has a secret out there. You know, it doesn't matter what your sort of community is. Small groups appear to be, you know, where our society is right now. So next week, we're going to gather and we're going to hopefully do ridiculous amounts of celebration about the fact that we are here as a community. However big or small we are. Jesus set the minimum number for a church. Jesus said, right, 2 or 3. Which would be great in its own way, right? A lot less committees with 2 or 3 people in church. You probably only have 4 or 5 committees. You gotta have some, right?
Can't
but
be a church.
you'll at least know who to appoint. Everyone will get their own and a few extra. Yeah. But so we're going to get together and we'll celebrate the fact that, wow, like compared to 2 or 3, this is a big bunch of people. And that we've got a task, and it's out there. And then we're going to eat together, and the food is always great. And then we're going to continue to sit and puzzle over like the 75 who are lost. Try to figure out why these lost people keep wandering around out there in the wilderness when we got food. But I don't know the answer to this. But we still need to rejoice that we have each other, because that is something that is really important. That's why we keep gathering. So I invite you to next week to come and rejoice, to come and be together, to recognize that this is who we are, this is where we are as a church. We will continue to be in